Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the American Masterminds Podcast.
Each episode, we invite extraordinary guests who are masters of their craft. They're innovators, entrepreneurs, and of course, motorcycle enthusiasts who have made their mark in the world.
They share their stories, insights, and hard-earned wisdom, giving you a front row seat to the strategies and experiences that shape their successes.
So sit back, grab a drink, and get ready for an exhilarating ride as we dive deep into the minds of these exceptional individuals.
Along the way, we'll uncover powerful strategies, gain fresh perspectives, and explore the limitless possibilities of what it takes to be an American mastermind. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the American Masterminds Podcast. I am your host tonight, Topher Sheeler. I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Rob Adams.
What up, what up?
We got Alec Langdon up on the soundboard here this evening. Love to see his hand. And ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest for you here this evening. We have Deven Ransom from
Hazel and from a few other exciting opportunities. He is a man of many talents, and I'm excited to have you on. Thank you, Deven, for being here.
Absolutely. Nice to be here, guys. Thank you for having me.
Well, everybody, Deven, is a friend of mine that I met in real estate. We were fellow realtors together, and Deven would come into the office. He was a disciplined, militant, showing up just like Rob all the time, bodybuilder, got the definition of success, walking in the door, had things going on, and then he had some life changes that have come along. And we're going to talk a little bit about life changes and navigating growing up, because that's what I counted towards, is kind of growing up.
Right.
A couple of amazing things that's happened to Deven along the way. Deven's a father of, how many kids do you have?
We have four.
4 kids. Mm-hmm. And how long have you been married?
Met 17 years, so working on our 18th year right now.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Beautiful little family. And your wife's name?
Ashley.
Wicked smart Ashley too. She's a smart gal, and they were over at our house on Sunday. Talked about a lot of different things. One of the things I want to talk about with you today, Deven, is the idea of ego,
right, or
our male identity, how we identify ourselves,
right,
and how fragile or even completely false that can be sometimes.
Absolutely.
One of the things I always admired about you is your physicality. You're a big, strong dude. When you'd come in, and still powerful build, powerful, strong man. But recently you broke your back.
Right.
Can you tell us how that happened?
Yeah, absolutely. So Topher's shaking his head, but I used to be 20 pounds heavier in muscle before this accident happened.
Yoked.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Yoked.
So this is what I look like after 9 months of not hitting any weights or gym, but I'll be back in there pretty soon.
Right on. What happened?
I had a motorcycle accident. It was back in August, and I really was siloed as an entrepreneur and in my business, and felt alone and felt like I had to do this alone. The typical mindset that we're all kind of blessed with in America. You got to do this alone, and definitely took on that belief, but. It was a construct that I had created that wasn't actually true, but it was one that I was projecting out into the world, and so that's what I experienced, was this aloneness, not being with anyone or not having one there to support. It all changed with that accident, of course. I ended up breaking. I'll tell you about the accident.
Yeah, please.
So I was, last thing I remember is telling my wife I love her, that I was going on a ride and heading up towards American Fork Canyon. I was on Timpanogos Highway. I was a very cautious driver. I did have a fast bike, but I was very cautious, and I realized the power that was in that bike.
It was a Ducati. Red Ducati, sexy AF.
Man. All right.
And that doesn't mean American
Real speed.
Fork.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was the premier of premier bikes. It really was, and it was a beautiful machine to ride. I had another Ducati before this one, and it was from 2014. And jumping up to this one, it was like playing a video game. It just did everything so effortlessly. You just had to think it would do it. It was really beautiful ride. I was telling Rob as we're coming in here, I want to get back out there and ride it on the tracks. And that's a hard conversation to have with your wife when she thinks when she went through that process of thinking you're dead. So I'll get back to the accident. I actually ended up blowing through a light. I don't remember it, and so I don't know how that happened. I don't know if I got distracted, whatever happened, but I basically broadsided a car, ran straight into it on Timpanogos Highway. I was wearing my helmet, fortunately, and had a backpack in the backpack with some other things like an iPad in it, which probably saved my back from completely breaking. But I don't know the details of it, don't remember the details of it, and that's actually a blessing because if I knew what I did wrong, I would be back on my bike and know I could fix it, not do it again.
Sure.
But that didn't happen. I don't remember it. But during that accident, my phone, one of the passerbys or one of the people that were there ended up picking up my phone and contacting my wife and letting her know that I had been in a serious accident and that I should probably get down there. She should probably get down there as quickly as she could. And she ended up following my phone and chasing the ambulance to the hospital, where she got there before I did. And fortunately, had some good friends. A good friend that was on the staffing all the nurses there that met her in this time. So it was really kind of a blessing for her to be met by a friend at a time that she didn't know if I was going to even be in her life anymore. So she went through the process of planning her whole life and what was going to happen without me being part of it. But yeah, it's something I never would want to put her through again. And that's definitely one of the reasons why I won't get back on a motorcycle on the street.
How long were you in the hospital?
So, and here's the interesting thing. Talking about being siloed, and we create this reality around us, and that was shattered that day that I woke up in the hospital. I woke up the next day in the hospital, and I saw all this community that surrounded me, people that filled up my room, and people had gone to our house and moved furniture and babysitting our kids and providing food for our family. Everyone just came to bat. It was staring me right in the face that I was not alone, that this journey was not one that I had to do alone, that everyone was here to support us as we go through this journey. And the amazing thing that happened was it was day 3. At that time prior, my wife basically had to sit me up in my bed. I was a very independent person, and I now couldn't do anything. I was the type of person that was always helping, but I didn't like to be helped. And I was not in a position to do that anymore. I was forced into a position of being served. And that again was a massive blessing. If we're talking about ego, that is a ego kicker. And
to receive.
So
when you've been giving your whole life and serving to be served, it's a totally different perspective.
Yeah.
And how did that feel?
It felt horrible at first. I mean,
humiliating.
Definitely humiliating. I mean, I did not like to be the person on the receiving end. I was the giver. I was the person taking care of things. I was the person that was helping people. And I was the person that was strong and independent. I didn't need help. And so I was no longer in that position. But it was day 3 that I was sitting there, and I gained this new appreciation for life because I realized I wasn't alone. And life became so much more beautiful. And I felt like I didn't want to spend any more time in that bed, in that hospital bed. And so I made the decision that I was going to get out of it as quickly as I possibly could. And it was by day 10 that I had my first in-person meeting outside of the hospital, outside the bed. So I had a walker and everything. I went to lunch and had a meeting.
No kidding.
Yeah, but
10 days.
10 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you think your physical fitness, like going to the gym and being in such a tremendous physical condition, because honestly, like great shape, do you think that really aided in your ability to do that in 10 days? Or was it just sheer will?
It was definitely sure will. The doctors did say that my mass and my muscles saved my back. So definitely during the accident, there was some massive benefits to being physically fit and in shape. Afterwards, it was sure will, but having to turn to other things too, because my identity was being that person, and I had to let go of that identity. That Deven that crashed on that motorcycle that day died.
Gone.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. And the reason that I want to talk about this, the reason that I wanted to make this the focus of our podcast, is because we as men, we hang on tight to the illusion of who we are.
Right.
Our emoji. I'm a successful realtor. I'm a successful or not successful. I'm a car guy. I'm a baseball guy.
Right.
And we link in this is who we are. And when I heard your story, I thought really none of those definitions, none of them really apply to the who we are.
Right.
So let's talk about that. Like when you're deconstructing, the deconstructing was immediate.
Yeah.
It was done. That guy no longer existed. So now here's this new person, learning to be served.
Right.
Maybe learning to receive love in a way that you've never received love.
Right.
And changing your perspective. What does it look like to go from this powerful, manly man to this redeveloping, discovering man?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that direction, Rob. So I think we as men overcompensate. And on the inside, we're all little boys. We haven't grown up at all. We view the world and situations from this narrative that we've created when we're little boys, when we're teenagers, and we see things through those eyes. Even in our marriages, the change that happened after the accident. Before I had an emotional support wife. Like she was my
ancillary.
She was my person that made me feel good when I was not feeling good.
Sure.
And I leaned on her. I relied on her. And even depended on her with sex or whatever. Like if I had a bad day, I needed to feel like a man. I needed to feel like a person, like who I wanted to be, and that came back to having sexual relationships with my wife in that way. It was a dependency. And then what happened after the accident? For the first time, I was. It's been I'm 44 years old. So the first time in my life, I went through this process of self-discovery, and challenged those old narratives that I have had since a little kid. Not only with my value and worth that people had put upon me and set expectations that I had created in myself, or things that I had believed since I was a young kid of not being worthy, of being dangerous for other people, and so creating barriers between me and other people because I was told that I was a dangerous person because I masturbated. I was a 14-year-old kid or a 12-year-old kid, and I masturbated, for Christ's sake. And so
that made you dangerous?
That made me dangerous because sex is next to murder.
Yeah.
And so now I live with this narrative that I'm a dangerous person, that you got to protect other people by staying away from them. And so all of my relations were only surface deep. I never went deeper not because I didn't want the connection and the closeness with that person, but I was scared of who I was, and I didn't want them to be, I didn't want them to have that experience with who that person I believed I was, but never acted in any way towards that narrative that was created that I believe, but it was an ingrained, deep belief that I had. So at 44, for the first time, I was able to experience love for myself and look into that mirror and look at that person looking back at me and tell him, man, I love you, Deven. You're awesome. I love you. And I would look into my eyes until I could see that person looking back at me believe what he was saying. And I made that a practice, that with gratitude. So every morning I would, come up with three things that I was grateful for and share them. And then I'd tell myself how much I loved me, and that changed everything.
In defining and discovering, I guess is probably a better word,
right.
discovering something that was already there, your value, and that you were worthy of being loved.
Right.
And how does loving yourself in a healthy way change anything?
It changes everything, absolutely everything. I can't. It affects everything that you do when you have love for yourself.
For example?
So, for example, I was driving. I can remember the exact moment I was driving down the road. I'm like, man, everything looks so different, like in a beautiful way. I was looking up at the mountains. I'm like, man, these mountains look incredible. They've never looked like this. And just the feelings of appreciation and gratitude for life and just being there and having that experience, it was just the most amazing feeling. And it didn't stop. It just kept on going. And I kept on asking Ashley, Ash, is this real? Is this how people experience life? And that's how I would explain loving yourself. It's a different life.
So really what you're doing is you're saying that it increases your bandwidth. You're not burning up bandwidth on self-loathing and negative
Correct.
self-talk.
Correct.
And you're actually receiving in a place of gratitude all the things that you always had. So
Correct.
you're not getting more.
Correct.
You're just able to receive it.
Yeah, we spend so much of our mental energy, and we don't even realize it when we don't have appreciation or love for ourselves. There's a constant battle that is going on in the back of our minds. Even when you don't realize it's happening, it's happening. And I didn't realize it was happening until it was quiet. For the first time in my life, it was quiet. I didn't have this voice in the back of my head saying, hey, you're not worth this. That guy's going to think you're a horrible person. That guy's not going to value you.
Oh, of course the deal didn't work. It's because I'm a piece of shit. Of course that didn't happen the way I wanted to. It's because I'm not worthy of it.
Right.
All the things. So you're reaffirming. We had someone on the podcast that said our brains do two things. Mm-hmm. Our brains, they protect us.
Yeah.
But then they look for a reason to make us right.
Absolutely.
And so if your belief is I'm a bad person and I'm unworthy, then your brain will find reasons to confirm.
Correct.
Or reiterate that into your reality.
Correct. And it's just even the fight with that voice that's in the back of the head, because I wasn't doing anything to be a bad person, and it would say exactly those words, hey, you're not worth this. But then you have to fight against it, be like, I have not done anything in my life to qualify for being a bad person. And so you have this dialogue that's going on where you're trying to shut that voice down. But
so you're saying that voice is absolutely gone.
Yeah.
It's not even like, that's not true anymore.
No, it's around every now and then. But it's not to the extent that it was. It's not a constant companion.
Well, if what I said is true about being like finding the reasons to reaffirm our beliefs, to find out that we're right, now that you believe that you're worthy, and now that you believe that you're loved, are you finding reasons all the time to reaffirm that?
Absolutely. That when you take that and you combine that with gratitude, so that practice, I took a 3-week hiatus just because I had a friend that reached out to me and said, I think your gratitude's fake. You should probably stop sharing it. And so I decided to try that on for size and see if that worked, not having gratitude for 3 weeks. Man, that was the worst 3 weeks of my life. That is, like, if you start your day out with gratitude, you see gratitude in everything that you do.
Yeah, 100%. And you know what else is crazy about that? If you don't do it daily, your brain is not hardwired
Correct.
to put it to think about it.
Correct.
You have to prime the mechanism every single day, and if you don't, it spirals very, very quickly.
Correct. It's just like anything else. It's consistency. I mean, in the gym, I'm not the best example because it's been 9 months since I've been in the gym. But seriously, like if you're in the gym, as soon as you stop working a certain muscle, you start losing that muscle immediately. It's within weeks you start to lose the strength.
Days.
Yeah.
I've taken off a week and I've lost. You lose your mass so quick. You lose that strength so quickly.
Yep.
We had Deven. We had a goal here at the American Masterminds to do daily gratitudes in our journal. We had
awesome. I love that.
We had gratitude journals actually. And how's that going, Topher? You still?
I'm back on the train, my man. Yes,
yeah?
awesome.
You took a break?
I had a baby, and yeah.
That's disruptive, sure.
It is, a little bit. But to his point, like if you miss, it's amazing how fast it stacks up on you if you're not practicing it on a daily basis.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And once you flip the switch back on, it's like, oh,
How did I ever stop
what in
this?
the world was I doing?
Alec,
This
are
is
you doing it, Alec?
This is my gratitude post from today. I'll actually let you read that, but it's the consistency. And it doesn't have to be the big things. And I think that's where most people fail, is they think they have to come up with a gratitude, and it's for us. Mm-hmm. It's not for anyone else. We're sharing. We're sharing this gratitude for us.
Deven, I think you should read that. I think you should read that for us.
Okay, I can read that. We don't control the world around us or the people we encounter, but we can control how we feel about the world and the people we encounter. We can see a world of abundance, or we can choose to experience scarcity in life. The fastest way to put yourself into an abundance mindset is to choose gratitude. That is why gratitude is so important to me. That is why it is a daily morning practice for me. It turns off my monkey brain, and it turns on those parts of my brain that live in appreciation for life. My thoughts go from I deserve to I am fortunate to experience. I deserve nothing, but I am blessed to experience the good things I do. Today, I'm grateful for how many wonderful people I have in my life who care for me. It is easy to fall into that trap of feeling alone, but if you take a moment to look at how others show up in your life, you will quickly expose the lie. If others are not showing up in life, ask hard questions. The life I experienced was a projection I created. I had to look at what I was projecting before I felt the connection I wanted to feel from others. The second thing I was grateful for, the opportunity to reflect and sit in the crud. Life is not supposed to be easy all the time. That is not life. If you get everything you want, how much joy can you experience if you always have what you want? My heaven is not filled with the things I want, but is abundant with the things I need. Real joy comes from the journey, not from the destination we fixate on. The opportunity to try, third thing, the opportunity to try new things, or try things on. We live a life of I know, or are we open to learning? As soon as you fall into the realm of I know, you shut out the world. You close yourself off to learning something new. Be open. Try new things on. See how it fits. Experiment with new ideas. You can always take the things off and say to yourself, well, that did not work, and pick old beliefs up and put them back on. Don't live a life of I know, a life of I don't know, and live a life of I don't know and embrace that feeling. How many of the things we say, or how many of the things we say we know, do we really know? Or how many of those things are things that we merely hope for? So that's the power of gratitude. When you do it daily, it just starts to flow out, and it flows out beyond that post. It flows out into everything you do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now, the person that told you that they don't believe your gratitude is real, that's a reflection. That's their reflection.
Yeah, but it's good to try it on. So like when you hear people, because I asked for it. This wasn't unsolicited advice. It was solicited. I was probably about 3 weeks ago. I was having a really hard time with my startup, and I wanted to know what I need to do to be a better person, to be the person that was worthy of the startup I was creating. And so I have a lot of really great friends, and reached out to these friends and asked for their solicitation of their input, their feedback.
It's a tough thing to do. I've tried that before.
It works.
Yeah.
So, but what was awesome about this, it was going through this experience of living in gratitude and taking 3 weeks off to see if what this person was saying worked for me. Man, that was a hard 3 weeks. Like it was tough, and the difficult things that I normally just roll over and accept, they shook me, and that's the power of gratitude. You are living with this heart full of gratitude. You don't have time to be shook. You just approach the problem and take care of it.
Yeah, there's not room for both in your heart, fear or love, right? There's one or the other. So
right.
Rob says this all the time. It's girding your loins. Is that this phrase? Right? You're getting ready for the day. Doing your gratitudes is part of it.
Right.
It's like putting the body armor for going out and tackling life.
Correct. Yep. Absolutely agree.
It's one of the phrases I've kept.
I like it. I like that you kept it.
Yeah, that's a good one. Well, let's talk a little bit about, so here's your journey. You're healing, still growing, and you're on your way back mending your body. One of the definitions I have, and I just had surgery on my knee, and the reason that I've got Deven here is I've talked a little bit about these things. I had surgery on my knee, and so I was kind of out of commission for a while.
Right.
My friend Alec over here, he had serious surgery on his knee, and he was out you've been rehabbing for almost a year.
It's been 6 months.
6 months?
9 months is the kind of...
9 months. Long time.
Yeah.
I really identify with this machine, this mechanism.
Right.
I'm, 6'1" and I'm a certain weight and a certain size. And,
Right.
It's a big deal to all of a sudden not be that powerful
Right.
mechanism anymore. And
Right.
I think as I'm redefining that, my definition of who Rob is, how do you keep it out of the mechanism and more into this spiritual journey?
With the physicality side, or the way that I look, or
Just no. I mean, yeah, that might be the direction we want to go. But how are you managing this reconciling? Because there's a change happening.
yeah.
How are you reconciling that?
I actually appreciate all of the difficult times that I experience. I've learned a new appreciation for the outcome from these difficult things. I can't be who I want to be without experiencing these things. And that's really kind of the shift that's happened. There's a deep appreciation, almost a spiritual appreciation for these hard moments that I'm going through, because I recognize that these are the things that I need to experience. And it's not that I'm looking at a God or anything being attached. I just recognize that independently, whether there's a God, whether there's a power that is at work, I know that these experiences from my motorcycle accident, as hard as they are, as difficult as they are, they will make me the person that I need to be to accomplish the things that I want to accomplish. So,
Wow, that's right there. Boom.
That's a big one.
That's a
Yeah.
golden nugget, folks. One of the reasons that Deven and I have always been friends is that there's never been a time where we've talked about, we always go deep
yeah.
in a quick hurry. There's always something that we're going to talk about on a spiritual or,
That's how I roll, Rob. I'm sorry, man.
no apologies needed from me. That's how I roll too. I'm not interested in talking about things that don't matter. And I've always appreciated that about you. Growing up, have you always been Have you always been someone that wants to go deep and talk about these things that matter, or is this a new Deven?
I would say it's a new Deven in the fact that no one got to experience that side of me.
Because you were guarded.
I was guarded, but I was also, and this is not, it's not a victim statement at all. But I was on the spectrum, and being on the spectrum, you see the world differently than other people, and you feel very alone, and that's just part of it. And I'm teaching my kids that it's okay to feel alone. It's okay to feel not like everybody else. And growing up with those feelings, I would have given anything to feel like everyone else. And what happened is I put on this mask, and most people that are on the spectrum or not on the spectrum put on the mask.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a masculine energy condition.
Right.
I feel like
It has to be.
I don't know a single dude that feels 100% like I'm like everyone else.
Right.
And
Right.
The thing is when you have conversations like this, and the reason this is so important to me that we're having this talk, Deven, is
Absolutely.
because we have men that listen to our podcast, and the masculine condition is a common condition. We're all struggling to realize our worth.
Yeah.
We're all, maybe struggling is not the right word, but it's part of the journey.
Yeah.
Because once you start to realize that, you actually start to grow up. You start to give yourself a little bit of grace. You start to be more forgiving
Correct.
of yourself and others. Your edge kind of goes away. And some people are like, well, I don't want to lose my edge. Well, happiness comes with balance.
Right.
And you start to have this balance when you start to realize that I'm not the only one who thinks of worthiness, or that thinks of
Correct.
Fulfillment and
Yep.
happiness.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate these conversations, because this is the condition.
Mm-hmm.
And the more men that know that can come out. Can I say that? Can I?
Works.
That come out with these feelings and it can admit it, I feel like they have an opportunity perhaps to find happiness.
Well, I think what you guys are doing, these type of conversations are crucial, by the way. But what you're doing, you're chipping away at this false masculinity which has plagued our society for so long. And I think really where it comes down to, I have a really good friend that made this point, and I love it. He's actually, you guys need to have him on your podcast, by the way. He's amazing.
Make the introduction. We'd love that.
I will.
Yes.
I will. So he has his master's in psychology, and he helps men access their true masculinity. And he said that he had a comment that really resonated with me. He said that our masculinity that we have been displaying in American cultural society has changed since the Iron Age, or the Industrial
Yes.
Revolution. Because prior to the Industrial Revolution, we had men that were working with their children, with their boys, and they had direct connection with them, and they taught them what masculinity looks like, what protection looks like, what looks like to be a man, a father, and show up in this true masculinity, this protective masculinity. And then with the Industrial Revolution, men were off in the factories providing for their families, and women took on the role of teachers, parent, teaching these young men what masculinity looks like. And so I think he was spot on when he said this. We have an imposter of masculinity, and it's a plague that is plaguing our society.
I've often thought about where my dad got his definition of masculinity, his behavior, and was it in the, John Wayne movies and all these things. Then I think about where I got mine was looking at him. Of course, we all look at our examples growing up, and I love that. I love my dad, but he had terrible examples, and so therefore he kind of was a terrible example, and so there's this weird swing of like masculine versus feminine energy, and being comfortable with both and creating balance. It's okay to have your feelings. It's okay to connect, but it's not okay to go it on your own. It's not okay. We're pack animals.
We are.
The more I'm around my pack, my herd, my tribe, Alec, my boys, the more I realize I need these guys. I'm better with them than I am alone.
Right.
And
that's the human that's the human condition. It's been the human condition. We are genetically predisposed to be communal. This isn't natural for people to feel like they have to go it alone. It's not natural.
Yeah, but it's so celebrated. It's so celebrated that I'm the strong, I'm the pillar, I'm the independent, make it on my own kind of a guy, and it's just such bullshit.
Yeah.
A tremendous amount of bullshit. And also it's wildly gratifying to see my boys succeed and grow. We had a meeting last night with two of the tribe, three coming together. And I was a witness, so there was four of the tribe, four men that kind of came together, and we put together these like solutions that are industry changing, big deal stuff. Not one of us at the table could accomplish it alone, but
that's a real condition. That's how it's supposed to happen.
That's how it's supposed to be. But where I'm going with that is like at the end, I felt like so good. Like I felt like I really hit the ball out of the park. Team.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean?
Yep,
like it was
100%.
It felt so good. I wanted to call up the boys and be like, "Hell of a job, boys! Hell of a job!" And it felt really good. I'm way excited about this opportunity that that I have with these other men. The direction that I want to go with this, Deven, is now as we create this tribe, as we're creating this consciousness, masculine consciousness. I feel like the definition of masculinity is wildly askew. It's
swung off to left field, 100%.
What does this even mean? What does it even mean to be a manly man?
It means, excuse me. It's taken a turn. Like somehow the yoke gym bro, that's what masculinity is. And that's where the toxic masculinity has come from. And that couldn't be further from the actual truth of true masculinity and what that means.
Have you ever looked at like the origin of the term toxic masculinity?
I have not.
Comes from a study of men in a prison. It's not even on the spectrum of men in the world. It's a behavior of men who are incarcerated.
Right.
And so it's been taken and kind of bastardized into this negative definition, and it has nothing to do with reality of masculinity. It's an interesting perspective.
I did not know that.
So it's really interesting that you took that context too. But think of our brains when we're in abundance, and think of our brains when we're in moments of scarcity. And moments of scarcity, I'll say unsafe, and abundance safe. Our brains respond and we act differently when we're in moments of abundance versus moments of scarcity and unsafety.
Certainly.
What I would say is right now in this time of in culture and in society, we're in extreme unsafety, and that's why we're seeing this extreme masculinity that's coming out. And I love that you drew that comment that it was done in a prison. I couldn't think of a more unsafe place to be than in a prison. And you're going to see this toxic masculinity come out in extreme levels. And I think we are in society seeing this unsafe society, and you're seeing men default back to this position of scarcity.
Yeah.
And you're seeing this massive toxic masculinity being, coming out and being exposed.
Yeah.
So how do we cure that? We create safety, we create abundance, and people will naturally pull themselves out of that place of toxic masculinity.
I feel like in my journey, masculinity is it's best displayed with that constant, consistent behavior more than it is me showing up and being masculine,
right?
And being a hero. It's just being the steady man, showing up, creating safety for my family, for my tribe, and being that example. And sometimes I'm the father example, sometimes I'm the son, sometimes I'm the whole range of this emoji, whatever you want to call it, like these characters.
Yeah.
But this is where I'm comfortable being, and I don't have to run into a burning building to prove my masculinity.
I really think Jordan Peterson said it best. Like, you need to train yourself to become a monster, and then learn how to control it. And then my mind is like, and then be able to go play dress up dolls with your daughter.
Oh yeah.
Like that. Yeah.
Oh man, I play some Barbies. I'm not gonna
Do
lie.
ya?
We've got
You play a mean Barbie,
I
huh?
play some mean Barbies. My daughter Zayaka, she has a whole set of Barbies that she inherited from her older sisters, and then somehow she got all of the Avengers.
What?
Characters, and so they're the same tall, the same height. So we got Ant-Man and right on through Wolverine. You name the characters, these big buff characters, and she'll come over and she'll hand me the most dutiful ones. You know what I mean?
Of course.
Good.
And and so I always try to grab like the Pretty Mermaid sparkly one, and it's just interesting how she already at 5 years old has this like, no, you're these guys,
right?
Well, she just looks at you, Rob. This one matches.
Yeah,
You're
this
going
one right
with
here.
Dad.
Yeah,
Right.
That's right. You need a mask, Dad. You're going to be Ant-Man.
There you go.
It's interesting to watch this little person grow up, and I'm always, it's like an experiment. Zayaka is like, I'm wondering where this is going to go. Who's she going to turn into? Am I being that example? I've got 4 daughters, and it's important to me. We talked a little bit about this on Sunday.
Yeah.
It's important to me to that my daughters are warrior goddesses.
Yeah.
That's how I'm raising my girls.
Yep.
They're no, even though they're very feminine and beautiful, and they like to look pretty, they're badasses.
Yeah.
And I think that. Is that masculine energy that I'm putting into them? I don't think so.
No,
I think that there's a powerful...
You're setting the expectations of what's appropriate in their life.
Yeah.
So, and we talked about this, and Topher, I was over at his house Sunday, like he said, and watching him with his daughter, it was a really pleasure and experience to watch the way that you interact with her. You treat her with so much love and compassion, and the way you look into her eyes and tell her that she's beautiful and loved and cherished. There is no man that's going to come into her life, and we talked about this on Sunday. There's no person that's going to be coming into her life where she's not going to see who he is right away, And if he doesn't treat her how you've treated her, she will not allow him to continue in her life.
She'll knock him out.
She will. She'll take him out of her life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks. I appreciate that. It's quite a compliment. I try my best to, with my daughters, I read a book, and I'll share it again. It's called Powerful Fathers, Powerful Daughters. And it is, I wish I would have read it 26 years ago when I had my first daughter, because it talks about the value of standing up and being that example and being that man and sharing my beliefs about God and about politics and about justice and about those things, because it's important that she should understand this is what this looks like. She might not choose that. That might not be the direction she wants to go in her choice of a mate or a companion, which is awesome. But it also shares with her that there are men out there who can vote a certain way, who can still love them, or there's diverse personalities out there that can still do service and have charity. And
Right.
You have to be kind of bold with these girls and not be their friend. My job is not to be my daughter's friend. My job is to be her father. And in that role, I take it very serious that she should know that she is a warrior goddess. And I refer to her that way. And when she speaks, I listen to what she has to say. I don't ignore her. I want her to feel heard and seen. And all these little things add up. They all add up. And I hope that my daughters can appreciate that as they become parents, and they can see they want to adopt into their children's life a strong, powerful role model.
Right. Well, you can see the confidence in her, and you can see that she knows she matters, and that's not on her own. That's from the way that you guys have raised her. She knows that she matters. She knows that her opinion matters. She's strong and confident, and that's because the way that you guys have interacted with her.
So what I'm trying to do in that effort is trying to cure the generational wound of worthiness. Do you get what I mean?
I do.
Where you and I were raised in a dogma, perhaps, that promoted a lack of worthiness. One day, if you do these things, then perhaps you may be worthy to receive happiness, abundance, love. And that's simply not the case. There's never been a doctor that pulled out a baby and held that baby and said quick to the nurse, quick, bring me worthiness. We're born with a tremendous amount of worthiness. We have this innate power, this warrior goddess or God that's in us, and it's programmed out of us.
Right.
And so growing up, in my perspective as a man, is to relearn who you are and carry that mantle with respect. I don't want to be a douche about the fact that I'm a king. I'm a king. And I have responsibilities as a king. And my kingdom is my little family, and my family deserves a righteous, loving king.
Yeah.
Not to rule. I want to be clear about that. I'm not there to rule, but I'm there to preside and make sure that things are managed in a way that they are raised in a healthy environment.
Provide structure, provide protection, provide the safety net that is there. But everything, in my mind, what you just laid out, that is masculinity. The fact that you have the ability to take, and you're conscious of, how's this little girl perceiving things, and what can I do to help, for lack of a better word, program her through these things, and seeing beyond yourself. That is what masculinity is. Our job is to take care of everyone around us.
And what's more, and I don't mean to run away with the interview in this direction, but when I'm in my kingly role, when I remember that my divine nature is a powerful man, when I'm in that place, my wife loves me more. She wants that. She needs that from me. When I forget my role and I'm spending all my time trying to please her, become a sycophant, try to, and I do have to love her. I do have to take care of her. Her love language is service, but to serve her, I don't have to give up my role as that strong position. We in marriage have been led to believe that my job is to make sure you as my spouse is happy, and then we lose our personalities in that effort. And the truth is that if you lose your masculinity in trying to make your wife happy, she will resent you.
Right.
And oftentimes it leads to divorce. And after those people that are divorced, and I see this again and again and again, the people that are divorced wonder, who the heck am I anyway? I've given up my whole identity to this marriage. And the truth is that your identity should come first. If you can take care of yourself as a man, as a woman, and you're that attractive, beautiful woman that the man fell in love with, that will never go away.
Yep.
But the minute you start to try hard to make someone else happy, you lose your power.
Yeah. We said, I proposed that we're in a famine, and what we're in a famine of is self-love. And the reason why it's so important is if we don't love ourselves, we're willing to give up of ourselves in situations that we shouldn't be giving up of ourselves. So even,
no identity.
No, not only that, definitely no identity, but even integrity. Oh. Because if you need to have acceptance and you don't have it for yourself, if you need to have love and you're not feeling it for yourself, you will do what you need to do to feel that acceptance.
You will compromise.
You will compromise. And that even comes down to honesty and integrity.
Huh. Wow. Powerful. That is powerful. Heading in another direction, as you are discovering or nurturing the self-love, you're building the muscle, as you said, of self-love. How do you do that in a way, like give us some advice on how can we do this in a way, because a lot of times just saying this out loud around men is repellent.
Right.
Because it's not who our culture is. Like self-love, what are you talking about? But the fact of the matter is the more I grow into this idea of the more I can love myself and accept myself for who I am and have grace with who I am, it's easier for me to love my wife. It's easier for me to love my kids. It's easier to love my friends and have compassion for my employees and all of the different roles that I take. It enhances every part of your life. How do you develop this muscle? It's
just like anything else. You can't just step into it. It's almost overpowering and overwhelming to step into it.
First day at the gym, baby.
First day at the gym. And you have to give yourself wins. And you start with small wins. And if you start with these small wins, hey, that felt good. Looking myself in the eyes and saying, hey, I love you. That felt pretty damn good. And then,
have you ever tried that, fellas? Have you ever tried looking in the mirror, doing mirror work? That's wicked hard.
Taking a lot of baseball hacks in the mirror. I've never said I love you to myself.
I usually I would not look in the mirror as I was getting ready. I'd do my hair, never looked in my eyes because I hated that person. I was just taking care of that person, make sure he had his mask on straight before he went out into public. Yeah. That's what I was doing. But when you
never saw yourself.
Never saw yourself. But when you look, there's real power when you're looking yourself straight into the eyes and that person's looking back at you. You can see what that person thinks of you, and if that person doesn't like what he's seeing, that needs to change.
One of my mentors, actually a counselor of mine, talked about because I've talked a lot about this, working on this. This is something that I've spent a lot of time working on. And one of the things, there's parts about me that I don't like. I don't like the negative voice in my head. I don't like the repetition. I don't, we talk about this in the book that talks about this is the Untethered Soul, the roommate. Man, I hate that guy. He talks some mad shit.
He's kind of an asshole.
He's a douche. And if I had a chance, I'd punch him in the face. Some of the things he gets away with. Yeah. This counselor, his name was GPS, by the way. If you're listening GPS, I'm sure you're not. But if you were, this is hats off to GPS. He said, you have to love that guy too, because that's a part of you. And that guy brings value to your life. And I'm like, well, that's bullshit. That person brings no value. And he's like, well, is he the guy that gets you out of bed in the morning to go to the gym?
Yep.
He's that guy. He's the one that's like, listen, Slim.
You fat piece of shit.
Yeah, it's time to get out of bed. He said you wouldn't have your physicality if you didn't have that guy. What about your success in business? He's the one that's always in the back that's kind of like, I told you if you didn't work hard, this wasn't going to work. It's time for you to get to work. You're going to fail if you don't. And I'm trying to come to peace with this language, but at the same time, I'm trying to find balance in that language too, because that is absolutely false. I'm not a fat ass. No one needs to call me that to get me out of bed. I should be saying to myself, you deserve a special treat. Let's move our bodies today. Let's go do something that's going to make us feel good.
Correct.
It's working out. And so this is the dialogue you were talking about that is eliminated from your mind.
Right.
This is the hard part that I can't get my head around. When you said that to me on Sunday, I'm like, that's impossible. That voice, he's such a fixture in my life.
It's usually not your voice, by the way.
No, that's the ego. It's the inner
usually,
child.
It's usually the inner child, but it's usually someone else's voice that has told you those things when growing up, and you adopted that, and it became your voice.
No one ever told me that I was a lazy piece of shit. Maybe not in words, I guess. Something to noodle on. That's a good one.
It's called parts work, though.
Parts work.
Yeah, and so if you have those voices that are going on in your head, they were there to protect you. They had their purpose. There was reason for it. Just like you said, if you didn't have that voice, you wouldn't get your ass out of bed and do the hard things. But when we're doing parts work, we're able to thank that voice, appreciate that voice, and let them know they're not needed anymore, that they can take on a new role, and they will take on a new role.
So this counselor, what he had me do was name that person.
Correct.
And so my person, when he's talking shit, is Robert.
Robert's an ass.
Robert, he's a serious butthole, that guy. But he gets things done. He's about, like, if you want to handle some business, if there's a crisis, man, Robert,
The guy you need to call.
yeah, he's the one that's going to show up and get some things done. He's going to get it handled. May offend a lot of people, but
I was going to say, does he always handle it the right way, though?
no, but it gets handled. Stuff gets taken care of. And so he's kind of that toxic, if I could use that language, he's that toxic masculine energy that shows up in my life. The problem is that you have to tell Robert sometimes, and this was my counselor, is like, you know what, I got this, brother.
Yeah. Yep.
I got this handled. Why don't you take a break? Why don't you go have a cigarette or something? Like go relax and sit down, because I got this. And then Robert always has a hard time because he's been in control.
Correct.
Man, you know.
Well, he just wants to protect you. Robert just wants to protect you.
Just wants to protect me.
Yeah. So you gotta look at that and appreciate that.
Yeah. Yep.
And thank Robert for wanting to protect you.
So this is where I found the gratitude for this person, for this voice, is because, like, you know what? Thanks for. And that Robert is like maybe my 12-year-old, 13-year-old self that's like, look out, you're gonna fall. You know what I mean? But then the other part is like, no, I can jump these kids. I've jumped this ramp before.
I just had like a small little revelation here. You said that nobody told me that when I was growing up. But did you get a lot of like, don't be lazy, or like that guy over there is a piece of shit for being lazy and whatnot?
Yeah.
Like it was a constant thing that just was said, not necessarily to me because I've never been lazy ever in my life, but it is more of like you are what you think about.
Yeah, I think it was communicated to me by things like, you are the value that you bring. Mm. You are the value that you bring. So always bring value. Always show up and bring value. Mm-hmm. It wasn't communicated to me that I was already valuable. Mm-hmm. Just me being there was value.
Right.
And the older that I get, the more I realize, like, sometimes I don't have to say anything to support my friends.
Right. In fact, that's sometimes all you should be doing.
Yeah, most of the time.
Yeah.
When my daughters are struggling and they're having a crisis, the best thing that I can do is shut up, put my arms around them, do the old, I love you, I'm here for you. And so I think about that also internally, like quieting down and doing that and bringing that quiet power. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
Did I say I was doing a 10-day silent retreat?
What?
Yeah, listen to this. I'm going to be going up to Lava Hot Springs, and they have I got accepted. You have to apply. You have to fill out this kind of an application. Then you apply, and you go up to this place. It's in lava, and it's 10 days of silence. No journaling. So
Wait,
you
you
can't.
had to give an application, so they found out who you are. They know who you are.
Yeah, you
and
apply.
they accepted you into a silent
retreat.
Wow.
10 days.
10 days?
Silent retreat. So this is how it works. I had Jen Gardner come over. She did it. A friend of ours that we have, a common friend. And she said, like, the first 3 days are hell. Mm-hmm. Like, you get up at 6 o'clock and you sit Indian style till 8 o'clock. Then you go and you eat some dates and oatmeal. Then you go back and you sit down, and you can't make eye contact. You can get kicked out for eye contact.
Mm-hmm. What?
So when you go to dinner or breakfast, there's only lunch and breakfast. There's no dinner. You sit facing away. You can't look someone in the eye. You can't make that connection. You have to completely 100% be internal.
Yeah.
No talking.
Oh.
For 10 days. And if you guys know me,
Sorry.
that's all I need to say.
It's quite the experience. It's one that we take for granted. Our our silence, but like I've heard it's overwhelming.
The second or third day, almost everyone leaves that.
Yeah.
Because it becomes so intolerable. Just
Right.
thinking about being quiet for another 7 days. But if you can make it to the 4th day or 5th day,
Yeah.
all of a sudden you have a tremendous amount of quietness.
Mm-hmm.
Your bandwidth opens up and you can see the mountains differently. You see the trees differently. All of the noise that has continually been running in my mind, because it runs habitually.
Yeah.
Our programming
yeah.
is habitual. Stops. And you can really focus on your body, and you sitting there and being uncomfortable and having an itchy nose and not being able to scratch it. Like, you're not allowed to move. You can't get up, and you're sitting there and it is painful. Like your toe hurts because you're sitting Indian style and your toe is being pressed into the ground for 8 hours. Then you go to bed. Then you have lunch, and lunch is a vegetarian. It's supposed to be wonderful. You have lunch, and then back you go. And then they show a video. They usually have like the Dalai Lama or somebody, Ram Dass or someone, like we watch a video, and then you go to bed. And then you get up and do it again. 10 days.
I'm excited to hear your experience.
I'm pretty nervous about it. And
You should be.
And I've done a few different types of retreats. I went to Peru and did an ayahuasca retreat, and we were there for a month. Terrifying. I'm way more scared than going to Peru, like another country, driving into the Amazon jungle, into the Andes. Way more scared.
You're just left with yourself, and I think a lot of times as men or as the people, the scariest thing we can experience is being left with ourselves because we don't like that person.
Well, I was thinking, since I've applied, I was thinking about how much noise I have in my life. Everywhere I go, I'm listening to my radio. I listen to music all the time, or a podcast, or a book on Audible book. There's
How about just myself. I talk to myself all day, every day.
I don't even do that. I don't even have conversations with myself. I'm always getting external inputs. So if I'm not saying it, I'm listening to something. There's never a time in my day, from the moment I wake up till the moment I go to bed, that I'm quiet.
I'm excited for you to experience this. I think it's going to be
When are you doing this?
a game changer for you.
August.
So I have a book for you guys. It goes back to what we were just talking about. It's called No Bad Parts, Rob. And
who's the author?
The author is...
It's Audible?
You can get it at Audible, Richard C. Schwartz, PhD. But they call it parts work, and No Bad Parts is the book.
Check it out. I'm in the market. Schwartz.
Silence for 10 days on Rob. That's tough to get your mind around. Sorry.
Unimaginable. It's
No, you're good.
unimaginable.
It really is.
Yeah, that's why I'm excited for you. Like,
Yeah.
I'm excited to see the person that comes back. It'll be really, really fascinating.
That's one of the things I'm actually kind of worried about. Like, am I going to come back and be a different person where I don't want to talk to anybody? Like, maybe I found some peace in this silence. Because I have a few friends that I've told them I'm doing this, and they're like, "Oh man, that'd be heaven. I could do that. I could not talk to people for the rest of my life." And I'm like, that is nuts. I think they say the average man uses like 3,000 or 5,000 words in a day. I've got to be close to like 25,000 words in a day.
I was going to say, I know people that could do it. I know a bunch of people that could do it.
Scott
Scott could do it all day long.
Oh, yeah, he'd
no
love
problems. Yeah. But you're like at the top of the list of people that I think, not saying you can't do it, but like that would be a challenge for you.
Mm-hmm.
Have you guys heard of the DISC test?
Yeah.
So I sent it to you. I took the DISC test. I'll send it to you too, Alec. I took the DISC test, and you score on different levels of personality types. One of the personality types is the I in DISC, D-I-S-C. And I's love to communicate. They love to be heard and hear. They love to be understood. They talk with their hands a lot. The test only goes up to 100, and I score a 99. I've taken the test. I've taken this test I've been in the DISC world for 10 years. I've taken the DISC probably once a year for 10 years, and every time I ring the bell on my desire to communicate. So just so you know, listeners, this is no small challenge for Rob. This is
a massive challenge.
It's a big deal for who I am. I'd like to share my DISC test with you because it's revealing.
Okay.
Yeah, Scott took it today, and he typed back, "This is weirdly true." That's a great personality test. Well, Deven, let's get back to it. One of the things, shifting gears, that Deven did, Deven had a beautiful home out in Tooele County.
Yeah, it's Erda.
Erda.
Yeah.
If you've ever been out to Erda, it's on the way into Tooele. Erda is like, it's kind of still the farmland. I'm heading in. It's wide open. Like the lots in your neighborhood were no smaller than half an acre. Like big lots. The house was 4,500 squares plus on a half an acre. Beautiful, beautiful home.
So we had 3 acres.
Oh, did you? It was 3 acres?
And being in real estate and knowing the land development and acquisition, I mean, that's why we got the piece. It had access from the back of the property and access from the front. And we knew that it was in an area of the county that it could be subdivided into acre lots. And so that's exactly why we bought it.
So the next thing I see on Facebook is Deven posting a picture of this like beautiful RV, camping RV. And I'm like, oh, great. Camping. That's cool. I like to go camping. But it wasn't just about camping. Can you tell us a little bit about your adventure there?
Yeah, absolutely. So having 4 kids, I was in owning it was a custom home building company, and I was constantly, you know how real estate is. Like the time that clients want to work with you is the times that you should be with your family. And so for 12 years, I guess it was closer to 11, well, it's more closer to like 7 or 8 years at that point. But I hadn't been to a family event or a family vacation where I was not putting a fire out, where I was not talking to a client. There were so many times that we would be on vacation to get away from everything, but that's when everything blew up. I'd be up in the hotel room putting fires out and telling these people that everything's going to be okay. And that was my responsibility. That was where I was supposed to be. We're talking about a person's home. This is something that's very important to these people, and so
it's a big deal.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal, and so you have to, putting that up against your family. Am I going to take care of this person's life, or am I going to take care of my own family's life? It always defaulted back to taking care of their life, because that's where I provided for my family. As a man, I need to provide for my family, so I need to take care of their responsibility. These guys things too.
So it's a common misconception among men. I'm one of them.
Right.
That we believe the harder we work, this is how I show my love.
Right.
Is I work hard.
Right.
But our family, they don't see that.
No.
They only see what? Please continue your story.
Us not being present.
Yeah.
But so really, where it came to a headway was my second oldest was telling me something very important to him. His eyes were lit up, and he was excited about it, and he was excited to tell me about it. And
how old was this? Was he when this
so
happened?
at this time he was probably around 11 years old.
Okay.
11 years old.
Picking up some of these. He's picking up. Dad works a lot.
Correct.
Yeah.
Totally picking that up. He's learning from me what it's like to be a dad, and I'm not giving him a good example. But he was telling me this, he was excited, and my phone rang, and I saw the light drain out of his eyes, and he turned around and started walking off. He's like, "It's all right, Dad, you can take that." And that's the moment I realized that things.
Which is code. He was telling you, I know I'm not as important as this phone call.
Correct.
Wow.
Correct.
Think about that message stepping into I am not worthy.
Correct.
How clearly is that being communicated?
Correct.
Interesting.
Totally.
Okay.
100%.
All right. So please continue the story.
Well, it's at that moment I realized that the way things were progressing, the way I was as a dad, a father, a businessman, changes need to be made. My kids need to know that they were important to me, that they were the highest priority to me, and so we made the decision to sell our house and to travel as a family, to sell out the business too, to sell it out 50% of the business to my business partner and travel as a family, so they would.
So you sold everything.
We sold everything, which is a really interesting experience.
When we say everything, the house,
Yeah.
the cars,
Yep.
Furniture.
Yes. Yeah. We sold all the big furniture. Yeah.
And so you were just really very liquid by then, and you sold the business.
Correct.
You were completely footloose and fancy free.
Correct.
So tell us about the new home, the new space that you bought.
45-foot trailer. So we bought a 45-foot trailer with a new F350 to pull it. I want to step back just a second, just because it's something that was really important. It's a realization that I had. because when we were liquidating everything, selling everything, we wanted to get down to the bare minimum if we're going to have a storage unit for our memorables, things that were important to us. So we had to get rid of everything. And there was a level of anxiety and stress. I had worked hard to acquire those things. I had given up family time and given up so much to give my family all these things.
So your stuff was kind of your identity.
It was, but the realization that happened once I realized all these things represented time away from my kids. That's when the shift happened. I was ready to just give it away. I didn't want it in my house. I didn't want any part of it. And I started liquidating things for much less than they were worth because it had beyond zero value for me. It represented time away from my kids. And it represented the reason why my kids felt that they weren't worthy of dad's attention.
Interesting.
And so, but then we sold everything. We went through that process. And then we hit the road. The plan was to hit the road for a year and explore. This was right after COVID. Like we just didn't have a lot of availability outside of the United States as well. And so we took all our funds. I put it in crypto, and we lived off the crypto while we're traveling. And so,
Wow.
Cool, huh?
That's really cool.
It's cool.
So
It's like a bucket list thing. So yeah, so now we're on the road. We got the 4 kids loaded up.
right.
Your beautiful wife in the co-driver's seat.
Yeah, and she wasn't game. She wasn't game going into this trip. Like it was a push to get her on board, and she was her and my second youngest were the 2 that voted at the end to keep on going, and the rest of us voted to stay still. And so it was an amazing experience. If anyone has the opportunity, guys, if you have the opportunity to drop everything and travel with your family, make it work. Do it.
So here's something that I witnessed. Deven and I were friends back in the 4,500 square foot home. When we met, we were kind of building our friendship early on. And I went over to his house there in Erda, and his kids were clamoring, I'm going to use that word, for your attention.
Right.
All the time. And it was like,
Yeah.
we couldn't have a conversation because it was dad all the time because they weren't getting their cups filled.
They weren't.
So that he comes over on Sunday, totally different kids.
Really?
Dude, it was surprising. This is kind of what I wanted you on the podcast for. This is the crux, man. The kids were calm. Totally different kids, completely different children. Like when they came over and I saw you kind of come in the yard, I was like, oh boy, here we go. Because they were high energy, trying to get you to look at them.
Right. They just want to be loved.
Just wanted to be
Just
loved.
want to be accepted by their dad.
But it's hard to kind of put that on that when you're around these kids that are like, dad, it's because they have, and their heart is, they're aching. They're aching for this love. And man, these kids were like so calm and polite, and they listened, and they would like, Father, I think I'd like some of that food too. You know what I mean? Just like different. I'm like, what the heck happened? And so in discussing this, like as I was talking to you and getting to realize, talk to you, I'm like, Deven has healed these hearts. Like taking this sacrifice, you could call it that. You could say I sacrifice, but I don't see it as a sacrifice now the way you described it. I see it as like you saw something and you'd made a decision.
Right.
And it wasn't a sacrifice at all. It was a win for the family.
Absolutely.
So how have, in so doing, now you're back into the corporate world, you're creating, we're going to talk about that in a second, but how has this shift coming back into reality, because you were in this, you weren't in the 3D world, the world that we're living in, now you were traveling and meeting great people and seeing cool things and even hard things, being in the rain up in the, the northwest, Pacific Northwest, all of these different things. How is your life different now coming back?
So it was different for a moment. It was, but I did organize. So I came back as a different person and organized my business different, where it was not going to interfere with my family time. So moving to a model within real estate where I was doing land acquisition and development. Doing that, now I'm working with investors and developers.
More respectful of your time.
They're more respectful of my time, and their business hours are usually 8 to 5, and you used to have to do some stuff, in the evenings, but not how I used to do it. I want to step back just for a second.
I love it.
with our kids, one thing that I was told and implemented, and it's made a world of difference with kids, is never be the first one to let go in a hug. Because if they're hugging you for a reason, and let them keep on hugging you until they let go.
Solid.
That has been very, very powerful. They are hugging for a reason. So if we're pushing them and if we're ending the hug, then
we're doing it wrong.
We're doing it wrong.
Huh.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I'll jump back into the other thing that we're talking about. You got to remind me though.
I was just talking about like, how do you stay? I've done some life-changing stuff.
Right.
How do you stay in that state?
Right. I don't think you do. I think it has to be a constant battle to fight for that type of life that you want.
So it's fluid. You're moving regardless.
Right.
That was a good thing that happened. This is what we've learned, and now let's grow from there.
Right. And you make changes. And so obviously I didn't want to go back to that lifestyle where my kids felt that they weren't worth my time. And so I organized my career and my business in a way that I was able to give them the attention and time that they needed.
All right. Well, now, big jump. We're shifting gears. You are onto a new endeavor. You are doing some regenerative health.
Correct.
Can you tell us what that looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. So after the accident, I wanted to be. Accidents have this power to change you in ways that nothing else can. It gives you appreciation for the things that you've never appreciated. Mm-hmm. If you don't have your physical strength now more, you appreciate those things. If you don't have things that are taken away from you, you gain that appreciation from it. So having that experience, like I said, with that accident, it caused me to appreciate life much more and value my time and where I was spending it. As much as I loved land acquisition and development, I did not value it enough to spend the remaining moments I have here on earth doing that. It's not where I found my purpose or reason. And so I went on a little bit of a journey afterwards, and it wasn't an easy one, where I basically turned my back on what we're doing. And these are all things that you're not supposed to do as a man. But I turned my back on those things and followed my passion. And I wanted to be in a place, in a position that I could actually help people and be part of this conversation, be part of this world now, because I was so isolated for so long. For 44 years, I was isolated from the world. And I wanted to be in a position and place where I'm actually part of what's going on and helping people and making changes. And that journey, I started out with, it was called For the Love Box, and that was actually a really great experience. And it taught me a lot. It was the power of handwritten letters. And we had this product, and it sounds bizarre, but we would send these boxes out and invite people to participate in writing handwritten letters to others. But it's amazing, and I invite you guys to actually try that. Because for a while there, I would do this in the mornings too. It'd be part of my practices where I would write this letter. It has to be a long letter because people's natural intuition or natural thing that happens is their wall's up when you hand them this letter. And you're not sitting there and hey, read that letter. That's not what you're doing. You write this letter and you write it in generalities. It's things that you wish to hear. You are important. You are loved. You are powerful. Whatever you're going through today, you will be okay. You have the ability to make it through it. And you write this letter, and I would do it, 1 to 3 paragraphs. But you want to do it on a little bit of the longer side because that wall will start to come down. And as it comes down, you'll start to reach into their soul, and they'll start to actually hear those words that you wrote. But that was a really powerful exercise too, because not only did I know that it was helping people, because those are the things that, and maybe some people that you give it to, and who cares that they didn't receive it or want it, and you just keep it in your pocket. I'd write it in the morning, and I'd put it in this plastic sleeve, and I would include it. It's called a heart rock. Tom Ballard, not Tim Ballard, but Tom Ballard creates these polished little rocks, and they're suicide prevention rocks. Something that you can just keep in your pocket and just feel that you're loved. And so I would put that in with this letter, and I'd hand it somebody, and I just simply just say, hey, I wrote this morning, and I just wanted to give this to you, and that's it. And you could do it at a restaurant while you're standing in line or whatever. It didn't matter. It's just when you got that feeling, I want to give that to that person. But it had a really big impact on me, and how I even perceived myself. Again, it was just this another level of gratitude that I was experiencing in the mornings, and then sharing that gratitude with others, because I loved life, and I loved that I felt powerful, and I wanted other people to feel that too. And so that was actually really, really awesome. But that was difficult because it wasn't making money. And so, but I fought with it because the entrepreneur spirit, I mean, if I'm playing chicken as an entrepreneur, I'm crashing into that car. That's my personality.
Yeah.
I'm not going to swerve.
So let's talk about the current opportunity. What is it called?
It's called Hazel.
Hazel
Health and Wellness. Yep.
Hazel Health and Wellness, and the crux of this is stem cell.
Correct. Well, regenerative medicine. Yeah.
Regenerative medicine. So the stem cell. Let's talk a little bit about how the product that you offer, and kind of you're in a pioneering position,
right,
with here in Utah. Can we talk about that? Start.
Yeah, absolutely. So Utah has put itself in a very unique position, but it wasn't by chance. It was because we had pioneers, entrepreneurs, David Casteller in particular, who owns RRG, who actually pushed this bill through, got the sponsors in the legislature, and helped Utah realize that we needed to be on the forefront of regenerative medicine. And in doing that, we have the FDA, which is a federal organization, which is basically putting us full of poison, and they have pharmaceuticals, have the FDA in their back pocket, and insurance companies, and the whole medical field is just a mess. And so what regenerative medicine does is basically focusing on allowing the body to heal itself, giving it things that are natural and innate in the body to allow it to heal itself. So we pull our product. It's from the crown of the placenta, and the umbilical cord is rich of stem cells. It's rich of exosomes, which are very, very important because it tells your body how to heal it. Or hey, it's a signal to all these cells that something needs to be fixed. You have in the Morton's jelly, you have wonderful growth factors and PRP. So all these amazing things which are used to create a living person are sitting in this umbilical cord and placenta. And now if we can capture that and take that and put it into our bodies and allow our bodies to heal themselves, and giving them the ability to heal themselves, that's really at the core of regenerative medicine. We actually have an event coming up here this next Wednesday locally, and we've partnered with Paul Winterton, Dr. Paul Winterton. He's a Harvard graduate. He's an orthopedic surgeon. He spent his career cutting people open and surgically fixing things. And he discovered the power of regenerative medicine, and he has been using that in his practice for the last 8 years. And he's expanded that because he sees the benefit in it to Mexico, where we don't have the FDA, and we can actually do things with stem cells that we can't do here. So it's called expansion. And all you're doing is allowing the stem cells to grow and to expand into more stem cells before you put them into the host body, where they're going to. But you only want to go 3 generations. If you go beyond 3 generations, I'm not a doctor. This is not medical advice.
Go to Costa Rica. Is that Costa Rica has a no?
So they do. So they down there in those areas, they don't have the regulations at the FDA. But what we're finding is they also don't have the regulations of the FDA. So you don't know the product that you're getting, how many generations, because they'll expand stem cells which are in the millions into hundreds of millions. And at that point, you start to get a stem cell that should have been in the host body and converting itself into the cells that it should be naturally.
So they're diluted.
It's not a delusion, but it's
a malfunction. It's not
a
doing what it's
malfunction.
supposed to be doing.
It's just it's not as beneficial as if you get the just 3 generations deep, but it's really powerful too, because there's a lot of companies out there that are also creating this product and they're not processing it right, and they're not storing it right, and so they're injecting the stem cell into their body, or this PRP stem cell exosome product into their bodies, and it doesn't have the capability, because they only have a 3% survival rate of the stem cells that they're injecting into the bodies.
So is there any advantage at all then at that level of...
always. Yeah, there's still advantage.
Even still with that like denigrated level of performance, it's not hurtful.
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. It's not. But then you got to look at the sourcing too, which is very important. So what David Casteller has done really, really well is with the way that he's sourcing. We have a really perfect demographic here in Utah that doesn't smoke, that doesn't drink, that doesn't have tattoos. That there's even we found that COVID shots will actually penetrate this impenetrable barrier from the host into the placenta. And so there's even with David Casteller's RG product, they don't even have COVID shots, and we go 3 generations back on the mother and the father side to make sure that there's no genetic disorders that we're going to transfer into another person. So,
which genetic disorders are you like mostly looking for? Because we all have genetic disorders of some sort or other. Like you're talking like, I mean, there's diabetics. Like, what are we talking about?
Whatever you want to tell yourself, okay.
I'm talking about maybe just the Addams family.
I think what we should do is at some point is bring Paul Winterton on this and talk about if you guys want to.
Sure.
I would like that.
Yeah.
Because he would go into great depth of what they're looking for, and even in the processing, why within a certain amount of time of taking the donation that it has to be cryogenically processed in.
Interesting.
And there's a lot of different processes to make sure that the product is viable, and then it's stored and kept at minus 80 degrees. That's its a happy place, and then you actually just warm it up in your fist before you do the injections for like 4 minutes. You're just holding it and just warming it up, and then you do the injection. But phenomenal results, and we're seeing a lot of very great things. And so with Dr. Winterton and his clinics down there, we're actually going to be doing a lot of studies that he's going to be over, because it's not a studied industry. It's not there hasn't been studies.
It's like a frontier.
It's a frontier. Yeah.
So what's the availability for things like that? I mean, does someone have to be a millionaire to be able to roll up and afford this kind of a treatment? Because I'm sure insurance is not even touching it.
Right, and that's something that we're addressing right now. We have a partner that has a medical financing company, because we want to make this product available to everybody. I mean, you're talking anywhere from the end product costing anywhere from 2,000 a cc up to 3,500, and even more is what some people are charging.
Yeah.
We want to make it more affordable, and that's what we're trying to do, is bring that price down, but also create the opportunity for people to be able to afford it. Because right now, you're absolutely right. It's the wealthy individuals that want to prolong their life and live a healthier life and live a better life that is primarily the people that are buying the product.
So in a regular shot of this medicine, like what would be an average number of cc's in an injection? Would it
So
it's
you do
a
1
lot
to
of
2.
variables.
Yeah, 1 to 2. It's totally
So we're talking $4,000, $6,000 a minimum for a treatment.
correct. And again, I mean, we're starting. I want to stay out of that realm of medical advice. I'm not a doctor.
I'm just curious about.
But yeah, I just want to make that disclosure, and we can talk about these things. But once
I have read a ton about this stuff, and I've got a
Right.
couple of injuries myself. I was a baseball player
Yeah.
for a long, long time. I've got nerve damage in my shoulder.
Right.
And I forget who it was. It was Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson was on Joe Rogan's show. And
Talking about his dad.
Talking about his dad.
Yeah, yeah.
And they were talking about going down and getting the oil change down in, I swear it was Costa Rica, but maybe it's Panama.
It doesn't matter.
But it was like, man, I would give anything if there was a shot that could fix the nerve damage in my shoulder. Because like when we're out riding, it gets cold just a little bit.
So
and
we'll talk after this, because we do have that event coming up on Wednesday, and we're going to offer people at that event, we're at wholesale pricing. And so I would love to have you there and see if there's something that we can do for you.
Okay. All right. I would love that.
Amazing.
Thank you.
So when you do a shot, I don't think anyone that's listening to this podcast hasn't heard something about stem cell treatment.
Right.
It's kind of in vogue right now, especially with sports and professionals getting these shots and having amazing recoveries, elbows repaired. And do you just do the shot generally and it finds the places, or do you have to do the shot locally to the nerve damage and then it works? Like, how does that?
No. So the amazing thing about the product is they'll actually be intravenous. So we'll have nurses that will actually put it into a IV and do it that way. But we do site injections too, as well. So there's multiple ways that you can disseminate the stem cells, but it does not need to be in location. But if it is in location, it's going to go right to the source. Because
I would think, like, I'm 53. There's a lot of places this stuff needs to pull over and do some work.
It'll go over. This one, I'm okay with this one. I'm looking more up this general direction.
That's what I mean.
Right. Well, and that's a great thing. So if you are injured in a specific spot, like it's going to signal quicker. It's going to disseminate throughout the body. But you're going to get a high concentration of stem cells and exosomes and PRP in one area, and you will have good results with it automatically being, hey, this is damaged. I didn't even have to go anywhere, and it just will sit right there and then do its thing.
Oh, that's amazing.
Especially with nerve damage, because we get inflammation around the nerves, and that's what you're feeling is you almost get immediate relief with treatments from. Gosh, this I'm not a medical professor or professional. We have seen people with very good results.
Yeah. I know you've got to be hesitant to say it cures cancer. You can't say that. But at the same time, if you've been living under a rock, you don't know about this type of science. It's been everywhere.
It's one of those things we have to talk about it because the medical professionals aren't going to talk about it.
The FDA does not want you to talk about it. And so...
Well, it doesn't promote healing.
They want to keep you sick.
They want to keep you sick.
And that's where the FDA is wanting. And
there's more money in sick people.
Correct. And they can extract money for longer. And I think that's what pharmaceuticals do is they don't heal you. They just keep you sick. And
my name is Rob Adams, and I support this message.
100%.
100%, because I think healing is the treated part of medicine right now.
Correct.
And I know that doctors, there's no specific doctor that is going to say that's what I'm about, right?
They're taught that way. They're products of the FDA.
Yeah. I remember I told you about that book, and it talked about how doctors, there's no specific doctor that is going to say that they are against healing, but the industry is geared towards keeping you in business, keeping them around.
That's not what the majority of doctors are trying to do, by the way.
Absolutely not.
That's not their place. They have the training that they have, and they're trying to use that training to the best of their abilities to help people. We are seeing a shift within medicine, and we are seeing doctors gravitate, like my good friend Paul Winterton, who had been in surgery for so long, gravitate to these other type of technologies that are now becoming available and more readily available and less expensive.
Yeah.
And to help patients prior to them doing those things or completely avoiding these money-making practices of surgery.
Right.
Yeah.
And I do think there's a shift. I see all of these hormone clinics that have popped up, and with those, they're talking about these different hormones and these things, but if you can treat the level of your visceral fat, then the rate for heart disease drops. Like there's all of these things about preventative maintenance that are becoming popular now, where before it was like, well, just take a statin because you have high cholesterol. Well, I don't want to take statins. I want to treat the problem.
Yeah.
And that is diet and exercise and
Yeah.
And of course, if you have a genetic predisposition to have that high cholesterol, well then then statins. But that's the last thing you want to do is more medicine.
Yeah. It's really interesting to see the shift, especially among the people that can afford the technologies. Getting into this preventative, a lot of these guys are doing even microdosing the product, and they're doing it in consistency, not because they have anything that needs to be healed, but because they want their body to have younger stem cells that haven't been or exposed to the same conditions that the rest of our bodies have been.
It's a great idea. I've heard before that like all men have prostate cancer. It's just the level of prostate cancer which you have.
And how long you're going to live.
And so I could imagine this being a preventative maintenance for cancer.
If you want to live longer, then you start to put things in your body that are going to help your body be in a better position to live longer.
Yeah. Easy stuff.
I think it's great that the whole oil change concept, which is, I would assume, much like the microdose.
Yeah.
Like, that sounds fantastic. Truly. I'd be all about it.
Yeah.
If I had the disposable income, I'd be first in line.
Yeah.
Because I believe in better living through pharmaceuticals for sure.
That shouldn't be a consideration, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So this consideration shouldn't be, if I want to live, then I have to spend more money. That's what we've been predisposed. That's what we've been. That's the reality of the society that we live in. That's what we experience. But that shouldn't be. Like, we should not have to pay to live longer.
But
or
it's in everything. It's in everything, though. Like, if you have the money, then you can afford a home filtration system for water. If you have the money, you're going to afford better foods. It's even down to the basics, right? And so it's a weird thing that you're discussing because it really covers everything in life.
Well, and here's my problem. So Hazel donates 10% of all our net revenue to a foundation. It's called Hazel's Heroes Foundation. And Hazel is named after my good friend's 11-year-old daughter who's been battling leukemia since she was little. And she's watched with incredible strength and courage and appreciation, gratitude for life as she's going through this whole horrible experience and watching her friends die because they don't have the resources to continue the fight. And hospitals and insurance companies are dragging out these kids' experience and not giving them the procedures and technologies that could help them at the beginning until it's too late. And so we don't donate that 10% of our net revenue to Hazel's Heroes. I don't have any control over. I handed it over to my friend and his family to run and operate, and they provide the necessary money for these families to continue to fight. The last thing we should ever have to do as a mom or dad is watch our kids die and know it was because we did not have the resources to save their lives. I couldn't even imagine.
No. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you are interested in contributing to this organization, we'll have the link in the comments. As also availability to find Deven and Hazel and to learn more about this process. This is a startup. It's a new industry. It's a frontier industry, and so it takes a lot of courage to go down that road. And I want to encourage you and tell you I admire what you're doing. Doing something that you believe deeply in is what we're made to do as men.
Absolutely.
And so I want to encourage you and support you in that however we can. Listeners to the American Mastermind, these are some of the things that we're talking about. I think we'll have a few more guests on with Deven to talk a little bit more about this technology and how it actually can be used effectively and grow in the world. If it's something that you're interested in, please share this podcast. Be sure that you go on and you're going to subscribe so you can hear more about these things because Deven will definitely be back. Thanks for being here.
Oh, absolutely. I appreciate it. This is fun, guys.
Thank you, Deven. Really appreciate it.
And share this podcast. If you have a guest that you'd like to have on this podcast, please make the suggestion. We're grateful for you tuning in. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Thank you.